Your biggest expense when you get older is your housing. What if I told you that you can completely eliminate your housing and get into real estate, create wealth? Would you think I'm crazy? Come follow along with me. The secret to creating financial freedom for yourself in the future is creating sacrifice for yourself right now. What I did when I was 24 was I learned what's called house hacking, and this is using low down loans as low as 3.5% down payment to own and control an asset like this right behind me. You can buy a 2 all the way to 4 unit property by putting as little as 3.5% down as your down payment. So we're gonna go in the next 30 minutes in this video, a deep dive into some of the numbers, the cash flow you can create, the equity you can create, and how you can not only live for free, but you can also get paid to live in your house that you buy. Trust me, it's not easy. Is it worth it? Hell yes. So in the rest of this video, you're gonna hear a lot about house 1 and you're gonna hear a lot about house 2. Both duplexes. Right behind me here is house number 1. I bought this house when I was 24 years old, had no money in my name, had bad credit, and I was making $40,000 a year. So if you think it's not possible, think again. Let's go to house 2 and show you what it looks like. And this behind me is house hack number 2. Another duplex in which you'll learn all the numbers, all the down payments, and all the cash flow that's created me today. I don't live in these properties anymore, but they created financial freedom for my future self. So make sure you stay tuned and let's get to it. So you just walked and saw my first 2 house hacks, and I want to break down exactly what house hacking even means, why you should do it, and why you need to sacrifice instead of buying your first traditional home the traditional way that everybody else does. So what I have right here is a typical first home that most people buy. So most people save up all their money and they go and buy a 3-bed, 1-bath, a 3-bed, 2-bath, whatever a starter home would be. So let's say a typical payment on this first starter home is $1,500, 3 beds, 1 bath. If it only has 1 door in that house, if you only have 1 space, how are you going to make that payment? It's coming out of your pocket or your fiance's pocket, your wife's pocket, whoever you're going to live in that house with. So the only way to be able to house hack this house is going to be renting out each of these bedrooms, which you absolutely can do. So say you get 500 from bedroom 1, 500 in the other bedroom, and you live in your other bedroom. You just house hack this single family house and you cut your living expense down to $500 a month. So you can do it with a single family house, but the way that I'm going to be talking through is going to be using a single family house loan on a 2 all the way to 4 unit home. So we just went over the typical home here. What I want to go through now is some of the nuances with single family houses and residential home loans. So number 1, a single family home for a residential type product, Fannie Freddie, FHA, conventional, government-backed loans are going to be anything 1 unit all the way to 4 units. That means that the government uses these loans. You can use a single family loan for a single family house right here, all the way up to a 4 unit house. So you can use a VA loan, which we'll get into what that is, a FHA loan, which is 3.5% down, and they just introduced this at the end of 2023, a 5% down conventional on a multifamily. So let's dig into what each of these mean. So a 0% down, if you're watching this video and you were in the armed forces, you served in our military in some way, shape, or form, you get what's called a VA loan. A VA loan is a 0% down product, and you can use that all the way from a 1 unit all the way to a 4 unit. Literally $0 down, and they'll even wrap your closing costs. You can literally get into these houses for free. Amazing, you deserve it. Thank you for serving our country. But what I'm going to be talking about mostly is this one right here in the middle. An FHA loan, 3.5% down. What are the nuances that go along with it, and how can it change your life as a young person watching this video if you're willing to sacrifice? So let's jump right into it. We have a single family house right here, and this was a real scenario that I went through. I was pre-approved when I went to go buy my first house for $120,000. So as anybody else would, you go to a mortgage broker and they run your credit, they take your W-2s, they take your income, and they spit you out a number from your debt to your income to what you can comfortably afford on a house while maximizing out the debt that they're going to give you. So I was pre-approved at the time. My credit was like a 650. I was making $40,000 a year for $120,000. So the best I could buy on a single family home was 120 grand. But this super cool thing, and I didn't know this at the time, was every time, and like we said in the beginning, your 1 all the way to 4 units is considered single family. Any other door, so this door right here, so you have to live in this unit. So that's one more thing about FHA loans. You have to intend to live in these houses for at least 1 year. So it's a homeowner occupant loan. So this here, you have to live in this unit over in the duplex, but this unit over here does multiple things for you. Number one is they're going to take this market rent. They're going to take 75% of the market rent or actual rent you're getting from these extra units, and they're going to count that towards your monthly income. Meaning your income is going up and your debt staying the same means you can afford more in a house. So you use that to house hack. So immediately I was then pre-approved for $185 just by having this unit right here rent for $800. So $800 more. They took 75% of that. My pre-approval went all the way up to $185,000. So I was able to afford more in a house because of this. Now you can't be scared of this because you can always rent these other units. And that's why the banks do it, because they know that. Next, you can do the same thing for a 3 unit. They're going to count, okay, you live right here, you get money here, and you get money here. If they're rented already, they take the actual rent. If they're not rented, they take the market rent. So you want to be able to look at that when you're talking to the appraisers, because the appraisers are what's going to tell you the rents. So you can obviously afford more because you're getting 1, 2 more units of rent. And then the best of all of them is going to be a 4 unit. So you're living here, this is you. You're getting money here, you're getting money here, and you're getting money here. That means you can get pre-approved for even more. So the first lesson with an FHA loan or these multifamily single duplex to 4 units is every additional unit that you're not living in qualifies for more income for those properties. So know that as you're going through, because you're going to get pre-qualified for a certain number. And you have to be able to go tell your agent, if they don't know this already, the things that you're learning right here, so you can start shopping for properties you actually afford that they might not think that you can. So you got to put them on game because you watch the real side of real estate. Here's a real life example of house hacking and how FHA loans can literally change your life, especially if you're a young person and these are your first investments that you make. So first things first, let's talk about some nuances of FHA loans before we even go any farther. Number one is that you can use FHA loans one at a time, meaning that you can only have one FHA loan out at any time. In order to get it back, you must have the equity to refinance into another product, typically a conventional or maybe a commercial product, so you can then get it back and use it again. A lot of people don't understand that you can use FHA loans over and over again until you don't qualify anymore. And then the big one is going to be you need to intend to live in that property for 1 year. So intend is always in gray. It's got these little bunny ears over them because you can have different intentions. Hey, I wanted to live there, but maybe I got a girlfriend. Maybe I got a fiance. Maybe I moved in with somebody, or maybe the area was unsafe. So it's gray, but it is mortgage fraud if you buy these houses FHA and you never live in them. So first things first, you have to intend to live there. You have to make sure that you're doing this the right way. So let's go directly into my first house hack and how you can take some guidance from exactly what I did. So I went and got pre-qualified like we talked about earlier. So I was pre-qualified. So I'm going to write this out. Pre-qual was $120K. But remember what we just talked about before this. This unit right here was rented for $800 a month. This $800 a month allowed me to afford $185,000 in a purchase price. So I bought this house right here for $185,000, and you have to put 3.5% down. So 3.5% equals $6,500 as a down payment. So I'm going to talk about this over and over again in this video. You are now controlling this asset. The word control is big. You now own and control that asset for $6,500. So $6,500 down payment, you now own but have to live in this property. And what you have at this point, so this is a 5.5% interest rate. My payment on this property is $1,582 every single month. So this unit over here is a 3-bed two full baths. This unit over here is a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. It's a very big duplex, about 3,000 square foot, about 1,500 square foot each side. I was 23, 24 at the time. I was single. I had my dog. I didn't have kids. I didn't have people, let's quote unquote, weighing me down, and I was able to sacrifice my living to be able to sacrifice for the future. So what I did was I then rented out 2 of my bedrooms. So I said, hey, some buddies I was playing basketball with, I was getting, so let's say rent here. I was already getting $800, plus I had one person move in for $450 and his brother moved in for $450 as well. So that is another $900 on top of that. So that's $1,700 right there. And remember, my payment's $1,582. So right away, right when I moved into this house, I was living for free. So the main precedent of house hacking is to eliminate your housing payment. This way, you can save up for your next house. You can save up for your dream house. You can start your business you want to run. Whatever it is you want to do, this right here is the main goal. So I want to talk about one more thing I did here as far as rent. So this house, remember, I'm 24 years old. I'm young. We weren't using our living room. So this unit was chopped like this, and you had kitchen, living room, living room. We did not live in this living room much. So what I did was I built a barn door here, and I started living in this top area up here. So our living room pushed down here, and I rented out my bedroom upstairs to one of my best friends for $400. So instead of collecting $1,700 a month plus 400 equals $2,100 a month. So I'm getting $2,100 in rent. My payment is fixed at $1,582. So I'm collecting $600 more than my mortgage payment every single month. I'm living in my living room. I'm creating my new business. It's amazing. So like I said in the beginning, one at a time. Do I want to live here for the rest of my life? Absolutely not. Did I want to live with 3 roommates for the rest of my life? No. But it was a sacrifice I had to make to be able to do the next thing I wanted to talk about. We can do an FHA loan one at a time. So at the same time in this house, I had just flipped my first profitable house. I made $25,000. So what I did was I forced the value of that house through some construction. So I put all $25,000 of that into this house. So $6,500 plus $25,000. I'm all in to this house. What is that? $31,500. This was roof, windows, siding, new HVAC on my side. This was a fence. This was a kitchen. It's okay, which I did myself. Floors, and I painted. So I forced the value of this house through construction. So I'm putting work into it. I'm putting sweat equity into it. I'm forcing the value of this home. So I'm all into this house, $31,000 out of my pocket. So I take this is 2020 at the time. Interest rates dropped to 2%, around 2%. So I refinanced this first house. Remember, we can do it one at a time. I refinanced it. So what I did, and if you don't know what a refinance is, we took this property to the bank, or I did, and I said, hey, I want to restructure my debt. So another thing about FHA loans here are you are going to pay PMI, principal mortgage insurance, for the life of the loan. Life of loan. This is very, very, very important because PMI, if you put anything less than 20% down, it's principal mortgage insurance. That is a payment you're going to make for the life of the loan, which on this loan was about $150. And as the mortgage goes up, the more you're going to pay. In order to release it on an FHA loan is going to be a refinance. That's the only way you can get it off. As a commercial, or not a commercial, a conventional loan, once you hit 20% equity, if they do a revalue, they can drop it off. But that's the only way you can do it. FHA loan is PMI for the life of the loan. So I wanted to get rid of my PMI. Remember, I'm living off my cash flow right now. I'm trying to figure out how I can make more money in my pocket every month. That's why I'm house hacking. So what I did was I took this property to the bank now. I put another $25,000 into it. That same property, so house 1 it appraised 1 year later for $270,000. I bought it 1 year earlier for $185,000. So I now have about 20% equity, a little bit more than 20% equity in this house, and I can now refinance that into a conventional product. So my new loan, because I want to get that FHA loan back, I want to use it again. My new loan is $185 because what I did was called a rate and term refinance, and we'll have other videos on that, but I just restructured my rate and my term. So I dropped my interest rate down to 2.75%. So I went from a 5.5 to 2.75, making my payment $11.32 every single month. So I dropped my payment up here from $1,582, and mind you, I'm still getting $2,100 of rent every single month. I dropped my payment because I knew interest rates had dropped down to $11.32 because the rates dropped, and I also dropped that $150 of principal mortgage insurance. But the best thing about that, even better than the cash flow I was now creating, was I now have my FHA loan is free because I refinanced into a conventional product. My FHA loan I have again. So now what I did was I said, okay, I can now go house shopping again for another house hack. So my business was starting to take off. My wholesaling business, you guys are watching because you know me now. I started wholesaling. I started flipping a few houses. I started making a little more money. And it's funny, somebody DM'd me, or one of my friends texted me that I was playing basketball with. He saw a property come up for sale. It was 2 blocks north of this house right here. What I did was I put an offer on that house. It was actually turnkey, and interest rates are still in the 2s at this time. So the new house here, I did it again. So I have a duplex here, but both sides are vacant. The purchase price was $315,000. So that's a big jump. It's a lot more money. It's a lot more debt. But if you can understand the debt game, if you can understand how to properly leverage and use your money and use bank's money on top of it, this can be a great investment for you. So my purchase price was $315,000. This was January 1st, 2021. Literally closed on New Year's Day. The interest rate I got on this house was 2.25%. Never going to see that again in your entire lifetime. My payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is going to be $18.32 a month. So I moved up a couple more blocks. My payment went up, but the cool thing is this house is just as big and it's nicer. So the left unit here, it's side by side. I immediately rented out for $1,400 a month. $1,400 a month minus, or $1,800 minus $1,400. I now have to figure out how I'm going to pay $500 of rent now. And I'm in the same position. I'm like, this is amazing. I immediately just cut off half of my mortgage payment. And then what I did was I took my buddy that came and lived with me for $400 a month, and I put him in for $600 because this house is nicer. And now I just created $2,000 of rent, $2,000. My mortgage payment is $1,832. Voila, I'm living for free once again. So my down payment on this house, DP, down payment on this one was $15,000. But it was turnkey. I didn't have to do anything to this house. Literally moved in and did nothing. I put a fence up. So as time went on, I did a few things, but my down payment was $15,000. And now I'm living completely for free in this scenario. So I want to go jump back up to here because my one friend moved out and lived with me. So this $2,100, these two people that I was living with, they bumped up to $500 a piece. So now I'm getting right around $1,700 of rent up here. So I cut my cash flow a little bit, but remember I refinanced this property down to $11.32 a month. So I'm still cash flowing just about the same as I was before. So for that first house, I'm collecting $1,900 in rent and my payment is $11.32 a month. So I'm collecting right around, let's call it $700 of cash flow every single month. This is going to be a big number because I'm going to go through some really cool numbers with you here at the end, some higher level stuff about how these can be the best investments you can make. So let's call this cash flow. So I get $700 a month to this day, every single month in my pocket. And I created that with a $6,500 down payment. And I obviously put a little bit more money into it. So we're going to go over yearly returns here in a minute. But second house, same scenario. I'm renting for $2,000. I am paying out $1,832. Let me restart that. So the second house here, I'm renting for $2,000 a month. My payment is $1,832. So let's just say I'm $0 out of pocket after utilities and everything else. So I'm living in this house. It's fun. It's good. Turns out I meet my now wife and I want to go move into another house. The good thing is, as you start to accumulate more and more rental properties, that income allows you to afford more house, and you sacrifice to create this money for yourself. You already own two assets now that are producing cash. So we'll have another video on this, but we renovated a house. We did the burn method on another house 2 blocks over. So what I did was I moved out. So I moved out and I rented this unit right here, up here, for $1,450. So now I'm collecting $2,850 in rent. So my new rent, so this is in 2023, 2024, minus my payment of $1,832. So I created $1,000 of cash flow a month before basic expenses with a $15,000 down payment. I didn't do anything to this house. I swear to God, I did nothing. So let's put this together. So I have $1,000 a month in cash flow from this house, and I have $700 a month in cash flow from the other house. So I have now $1,700 a month. So let's write it out. Cash flow, $1,700 a month. This is going to pay for half of a new mortgage payment and a new house that you're going to go into. You're also going to create equity. So the next thing we want to talk about, equity. So the first house I paid $185,000 for. That house is now worth $350,000. House one, $350K minus $185K, $165K of equity. So equity means it's worth that much more than what you owe. So my house, the first house, is worth $165,000 today, more than what I paid for it. House two, it's now worth $425,000 minus my $315 that I paid for it, and I've also paid down some debt. So I now have $110,000 of equity in that house. So that equals 165 plus 110 is $275,000 of equity. So the equity is $250,000. So $250,000 of equity, $1,700 a month in cash flow. So let's go $1,700 times 12 months out of the year. So I'm creating $20,400 of passive residual income into my bank account every single year. So $20,000 here. Let's then divide that by our initial investments. So we have $15,000, $15K, plus our $31,500 plus $15,000. So $20,400 equals $46,500. $20,400 divided by $46,500. This is going to get you your annual cash on cash return. So on these two properties, I'm making 43.87% return on cash that I invested on these houses. So you tell me, would you live in your living room in your first house for $6,500 down, do a little bit of sweat equity, move out, do it again to create now this cash flow and lifestyle by putting very little down. So that's how powerful and how amazing this can be. And then $275,000 divided by this same 46.5. I mean, it's like a 3,000 or 300% return. I mean, the return on equity is amazing. The cash flow is amazing. You just have to be able to sacrifice a little bit of your life in the beginning to then create this lifestyle that you're going to live in the future, all through a 3.5% down loan. The last numbers I want to give you to kind of really strike my point across is the long-term holding of these assets. So house number one, it's worth $350,000 today. I bought it about 4 years ago. So compounding annually, so let's, on average, the last 40 years, houses have appreciated 4% year over year. So 4% up in value. So every year, this $350,000 house is going to increase in value by 4%, and then that's going to go by 4%. So in 26 years, this house is going to be worth $970,000 if it follows the annual appreciation of what houses do. Same thing with this one, $425,000 worth today. This is 27 years because I bought it a year later. It will be worth $1.225 million. So we have about $2 million plus of assets in 30 years, all because you put a $6,500 down payment and a $15,000 down payment. So you tell me, would 50-year-old you or 60-year-old you be happy with the 25-year-old young man or young woman that's watching this video? Would they be happy with this investment that you made, even if your parents tell you you're crazy or your friends tell you you're crazy? If they are weird, if they think you're weird because you're living in your living room. They did that all to me. I had a vision. I knew that this stuff was going to happen. I knew this stuff worked. And I've not even reaped these benefits yet, but it created lifelong cash flow and assets that nobody can take away from me. So use these 3.5% down loans to literally create your financial future, because you can't rely on the government. You can't rely on other people. These are the assets that can change your family tree. And it's all very, very tangible. You don't need an 800 credit score. You need it like over 600. So make sure you're making a little bit of money. Don't waste it on credit cards. Don't go blow your cash. Go save your money when you're young and buy assets like these two I just told you, because house hacking can and will change your life. And that's the real side of real estate.